What's up? I'm Skilla and this is Nerd Stuff with Skilla, and today I wanted to talk about the premiere episode of Season 8 of The Walking Dead called Mercy. I really liked this episode. There are a couple of issues with it, but I thought that overall it was pretty strong, pretty good. Maybe not the best premiere episode we've gotten for a season of Walking Dead, but I really did enjoy it. It kept me interested throughout the whole thing, no matter what types of crazy jumps that they were doing. I'm a huge Walking Dead fan, and I'm so pumped to get to talk about this on my YouTube channel, because I just started it like 2 months ago and The Walking Dead hasn't been on. I didn't actually start watching this show until right before season 6 came out, but I'd been reading the comic books for a while before that. Now, I'm not caught up in the comic books right now, but I intend to be completely up to date by the end of this season. Hopefully, I hope that I can do that and don't get sidetracked and lose track of it. This season premiere is also the 100th episode of The Walking Dead, which is a huge milestone. And if you didn't watch the Talking Dead afterwards, it was so just heartwarming and fantastic to see all of them out of costume and on stage talking in their actual voices, you know, since so many of them are British. It was really cool to see that and see some of the past characters show up who've passed away in previous seasons, got to come back for the 100th episode, Talking Dead. I thought that was really cool. I think that a lot of people expected, since this was the 100th episode, for it to be bigger and better than any episode we've had before. Now, I don't know if that's true, but I did enjoy it anyway. Now, of course, there were going to be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't gotten caught up on Walking Dead, go ahead and do that real fast, and then come on back, watch my video, and we'll talk about it. Let's have a conversation down below. I thought this episode is a really nice setup for the whole season and how that the show's going to move forward now. Like, we don't want to keep on treading the same path over and over again, now that Negan's going to be hopefully defeated in some way throughout the season. Like, we need to have a bridge to walk across after that. So we're seeing some different alliances made, and we're seeing who could possibly step forward as the next leader. Most importantly, we get to see the 3 colonies actually form together and stand up against Negan. You see Ezekiel, Rick, and Maggie all as equals as they give a pep talk to their different towns that they are in charge of. They have this crazy, intricate plan set up to take down Negan, and you pretty much see the whole plan play out throughout this whole episode. And I thought that was really interesting. I liked those parts. I like seeing the things come together and seeing the scouts get taken out and then seeing the horde getting maneuvered down towards the Savior's base. I liked all of that stuff. I thought it was really cool, and I thought you got to see some different character bits through some of those scenes as well. Like, it's interesting that Daryl, of course, chooses to just bring a little revolver with him since he's not using an arrow for this part. But he still wants to use something that's precision, and you know that Daryl's not going to miss a shot, so he doesn't have to bring some big automatic weapon or something with him to get his job done, because he's Daryl. I'm not sure how they intended to get the rest of the Saviors out of the base with the super horde coming towards them. Luckily, none of the generals, decided to side with Rick from his little speech, but it was interesting that they gave him the option, even though, how on earth were they going to get anybody out of there with the amount of vehicles that they brought? I'm happy that it seems like Eugene is not going to get to take Z's backseat on his choice to join Negan. I think that Eugene has had his moment in the sun and had his option to be a better man, and he has just shit all over it. I don't want to see Eugene try to be forced down my throat as a good guy like they did with Gabriel. Now, this is my first video on The Walking Dead, and I would like to be absolutely 100% crystal clear on this. I loathe Father Gabriel. I cannot stand that man. Not only did he leave his congregation, the people who trusted him the most, who saw him as a spiritual leader, outside, and listened to them die as walkers tore apart and ate their flesh. He's done a number of other jackassy things throughout this show, and I just can't find it in my heart to forgive this man. And I don't think I ever will, no matter how many people he goes back to save. Honestly, why did you go to save Gregory? You know that's not going to help anybody other than Gabriel. And I just don't get why he did that. But still screw Gregory for doing what he did to Gabriel. He's such a bad person, and in that moment, no matter how much I hate Gabriel, I hated Gregory more. He's just the most chicken shit thing, and I hate him. And, I wish they'd both just, the car had exploded and killed them both at the same time. That would have been fantastic. I would have loved that. I really did like the flash forward scenes, and it seems like they're giving Rick a future to look forward to, which makes him more grounded than he's been in recent times, especially when Negan was really like putting his heel down on him. I thought it was really good to give him more of a grounding. And we see now that Rick is 100% with us. He's not like making any bizarre choices at this point other than for the future of everyone. And I thought the flash forward scenes were pretty cool. I like the way that they looked. I'm interested in seeing how they weave them into the story. And I'm happy with what they do for Rick's character. Even if sometimes they're a little bit bizarrely cut in, it's not really that surprising to me. The Walking Dead has done similar things to that in the past, especially with all of the different, popping back and forth through different people's plot lines when everybody's separated apart. So that wasn't shocking or weird or annoying to me. I like that we're seeing a change in people's level of power in this episode. Like, we see that Maggie doesn't just have the hilltop on her side. We see that Rick would basically vote for her for president. I think that's really cool. We see Ezekiel, Maggie, and Rick all on even standing as leaders within this larger group. We see that Daryl and Dwight are kind of on even standing with each other, which is good because Dwight was kind of the replacement for Daryl in the comics since Daryl wasn't real. And, we're seeing that Michonne sees that Carl could be a leader in the future, and he does have more compassion than his father, which we see throughout the sequence with the dude who's he's a comic book character, and I can't remember his name right now, but the guy who he gives food to, who his dad shot over his head. And we see that Carl could be a more merciful leader than his dad is. Things that were not so great in this episode are kind of the usual suspects for me, like how Rick's voice is not always 100%. He kind of goes in and out of his southern accent sometimes within one sentence, but we all forgive him because he is amazing and we love to watch him on screen even if he isn't, word perfect on a southern accent. It's forgivable. It's not so bad that it's distracting. We all have our favorite lines of Rick Grimes where he just says something too overemphasized and you're like, why did he do that? Well, it's because he's British and he's not from here, okay? Now, maybe after 8 years you could argue that he would have a perfect accent, but it's not always that easy. So that's one of the things. It doesn't bother me, but when it happens and it's obvious, I just kind of laugh about it. It always kind of cracks me up a little bit, like listening to Ezekiel talk always cracks me up. Just because he's so ridiculous. Like, he's an inspirational leader and everything, but he is absolutely absurd, and I love every second that Ezekiel is on the screen. And my other problem is that sometimes their computer-generated special effects are blaring, and again, it's something that I forgive just because I love the show so much, but sometimes you just have like a scene where it's the top half of a walker writhing around and the whole thing's computer generated, and you're like, you can just throw somebody in costume and just let them be there. Just have the bottom half of them covered in green, and then you shop in the top of the car that they're laying on, or whatever it was laying on. And it's always weird to me when you see a show that throws in those extra computer-generated images that don't really add that much to the show and don't really look that good. I'm always on the side of, if it doesn't look great and it doesn't add to the story, then you can just go ahead and cut it. There's no reason to spend your money on that. Instead, spend your money on a couple of extra walkers walking around. There's some of that in this episode, and again, I forgive it, but it is something that should be mentioned. Even though we forgive it, it should be mentioned. Some people complained about like the explosions in the episode and them not looking that great, but for me, most of the explosions were with Daryl shooting an explosive while riding around his bike. And if you're a Walking Dead fan, that's basically pornographic. That is all you want to see all the time, is Daryl riding around on a bike, causing giant explosions behind him as he slowly rides off, not even worried about it. Awesome, amazing, love to watch it. Just half an hour of the next episode of that, that's fine. Daryl, like, handling that gun, you're like, yep, go on and get him, Daryl. We know that you're got something to handle. That was great. Him and Carol, I was just like, they look like they might actually kiss. And I am not a huge, like, shipper. I'm not somebody who loses my mind if people don't get in a relationship together. But seriously, Daryl and Carol, like, at some point they gotta do the do. It's just gotta happen at this point. They clearly should bump the uglies. That's all I'm saying. Like, even if you're not in a relationship, bump some uglies. You know you want to do it. It's the apocalypse. Just Bump those uglies, guys. Just bump them. I am dying to hear what Father Gabriel and Negan talk about inside of that, like, truck or train car. I'm not really sure what they're inside of there. I'm sure that Father Gabriel's pants, regardless of which type they were definitely his shitting pants. And, I can't wait for that conversation because Negan's gonna say some crazy stuff that's gonna be hilarious and also terrifying. And that's why we love him. That's why he's one of the best villains. A lot of people didn't like the previous season so much, but I thought it was really good. I really liked it, even though it was really dark. I'm into that kind of stuff. It was fine with me. All of it, like the psychological terror aspect of last season, I thought was really good. I'm glad that we're kind of moving away from that a little bit in this season, but I still enjoyed it. And I can't wait to see what this season has for us. I think it's going to be mind-blowing. I'm so excited for it. And I can't wait to do more videos for you guys on the rest of this season. Make sure to give me a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Comment down below with what you think Rick's dream sequences. I don't think they're dream sequences, but comment down below with what you think those are all about or where it's going. I know some people have comic book knowledge of what that could be foretelling, and I kind of know what that is, but again, I haven't read that far, so, just don't spoil things too badly down there. Subscribe if you want to hear about more nerdy stuff from me, and as always, thank you so much for watching.